Peace and blessings, everybody. We pray you are well. I am IFA Ray.
And I am IFA Tegunshe.
And you were tuned into
the best,
the greatest
podcast
on the planet Earth.
Let's Talk IFA.
Greetings, everybody. As usual, we pray that you and your families are doing well in these crazy times that we are living in. So, on that note, without further ado, first we're going to continue to thank everybody for tuning in. Please make sure you continue to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions or if you want to advertise on the show, email us at LetsTalkIFA@gmail.com.
Yes.
Today's topic is very timely. Traditional African concept of family.
Traditional African concepts of family.
That's what we're going to cover today. Because as we all know, well, we all should know and understand that the black family structure in the United States, particularly, has been decimated almost. You know, the black family has been attacked systematically through, of course, government programs and Planned Parenthood and welfare and, you know, that whole system.
Now social media.
Food stamps and that whole, you know, like just getting assistance and not having a man in the house, a father around, and just, you know, the crack era, you know, what that did to the family. Because really, you know, this phenomenon kind of started, I would say, in the 80s when crack hit. That's really when things kind of got out of control, because before that, leading all the way up to the 70s, you know, the black family was more together. It was about black love. We had more unity. We had, you know, because it was obvious who our enemy was. And we didn't really have these beefs, so much beef with each other. And the family structure wasn't broken down like it is now. This has kind of occurred in the 80s, you know, 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the full impact of that was through the 80s and, you know, where we at now. But I believe it really kind of started in the 60s. Like when, you know, because you got to think about this, you know, there was a point in history when here in the United States, when black people had their own establishments, our own businesses, our own transportation systems, you know, our own schools. We had all of these things going for us. I mean, let's talk about Tulsa. You had that.
All that, yeah.
You know, you had all of that. And then, you know, I think when integration came about and our people was fighting to sit at the table with the Caucasians and be part of their systems, I think that the government figured out a way how they can use that to their advantage, you know. And then remember, you had factory jobs. A lot of our people had factory jobs.
Yeah.
And then when they started shutting those factories down because they saw the African people or the black people in this country thriving business-wise, they had to shut a lot of things down, which left black men without any jobs. But the black women, and then they started the housing programs. But then when those housing programs where you can get free housing, black women were getting a lot of free housing, and they had children, but the men weren't allowed to be in those places.
Right.
Because they'll kick the mama out. And so that started the separation of the African man and the African woman. But even before that, let's look at slavery. You know, when they separated, you know, African men from their women by brutalizing the African man in front of his wife and child. That put that in the minds of, you know, black women,
the mothers
where, oh, he's weak, I gotta do this on my own. So that's where that independence, like, I'm independent, I'm an independent woman, I'm independent, I don't need a man. And there's nothing wrong with that, because as African culture, we know that our women are market women. They've always been that shouldn't even be something to push, because African women have always been independent from history, because they're market women. But that separation, I think, started, you know, through slavery, through the nationalist movement era, you know, the 60s, the 70s, where the drugs and the flower children came about. They started getting high, you know, and then the 80s when crack hit, it really just took off. It took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that put the nail in the coffin. And, you know, the other thing that tore our families up, not just the black families, but families in general. But of course, anything that affects America is going to affect, you know.
It's going to affect all the cultures.
But it affects black people twice as hard.
Exactly.
If it affects regular America, then you multiply it, you know, by 2 or 3, and that's going to be the effect
of black
on
people.
Us. But the war, Vietnam,
yeah,
a lot of those wars, a lot of black men came home and they weren't the same, and it tore the family apart. You know, to the point where, like, they came back, they was like gone. They was more violent. They had PTSD. They couldn't cope. They were no longer a husband and a father anymore. They came back a product of war with PTSD, and a lot of them went crazy and died and killed themselves and killed other people. And they did, you know, a lot of that was going on too. So it's a number of different factors, but it's definitely systematic, you know, because right now, the single parent household rate is over 80% with us. So it's a lot of different factors that have affected it. So that's one aspect of the conversation. But so let's jump into concepts of traditional African, you know, family, the cultural and the traditional aspects of what a family unit is supposed to be. What is it supposed to look like? You know, traditionally, the children do ballet to their mother and father. Right? It doesn't matter if they're a priest or a babalawo, or none of that matters. It's about showing respect to your parents, to your grandparents, to the respectable elders in your village or your town or your community or whatever. You do ballet, and you pay respect to them. You would, even if one of those elders did something that you didn't agree with or you didn't understand, you would never cuss your elder.
Yeah, you never cuss your elders out
to their face.
Right.
That's this new phenomenon now that's going on in America, and it's disgraceful. And when you do that, people don't understand that you're bringing a curse upon yourself.
When you curse your parents, when you cuss your mother, when you cuss your father, when a child cusses their mama and cusses their father out, you're actually cursing yourself.
You're cursing yourself.
You're putting yourself down, because you got to understand that you are linked to both of these parents. You are linked to both of these parents. And so when your anger or your frustration or your emotional imbalances lashes out at your isheshe, which is your mama and your father,
your origin, and your ancestors,
you are doing that to yourself. You're cussing yourself out when you do that. And so there's nothing good that comes from that.
Nothing.
But the ancestors are not going to be happy with those types of behaviors, or the behavior patterns that continues You know,
and they're going to punish you. They're going to be the main ones. That's their area. That's their domain.
So
the ancestors will punish you for that.
So hence, this is what needs to happen, because what the problem is, there's a lack of communication. It always goes back to a lack of communication. And there's a hierarchy that we got to understand. There is a hierarchy between the starting from grandparents to the parents to the children, right? That hierarchy sets, that's where the moral codes and principles and all of those things come at. And so it's a hierarchy, and you have to respect that hierarchy. If that hierarchy is not respected, then the communication is off. There's something wrong. And so what I see in this generation, what's going on today is, you know, people don't know their place, basically.
Right.
You know, I'm not just saying young people don't know their place, but you got older people that don't know their place, and so the younger people don't know their place.
Facts.
You know, you got parents out here trying to act like a teenager.
Yeah.
And they got teenagers. So what are you teaching your teenager? The communication is off because you got a parent that want to be on a level with their teenage child.
Yeah.
And they want to act cute and be cute like their teenage child. And they're not teaching them. That kind of communication is off, because what type of example are you setting for that teenager or those teenagers?
You know, it all goes back to emotional maturity.
Yes.
Like you said, communication, conflict resolution. You have to be emotionally mature to do those things. And when the parents or one of the parent is not, it just throws everything off, because children should never speak to their parents a certain way, period.
That's across the line. That's just across the line.
Board. And both parents should be in a line. Even if we don't agree, both parents should be in alignment with that. But when it's a sad day when you have one of the parents or both of the parents that are acting like children, that stoop to the level of children. And so who is going to be the voice of reason? Who's going to be the voice of maturity and wisdom in the situation? And a lot of families, this is what's lacking. And a lot of in the community and the society today, you know, we don't have enough examples of those people to enforce and reinforce these concepts with the children. So we have a breakdown of, you know, the family structure, especially with melanated people, with black people. It's you know, it's really a shame, and it's more serious than what people understand. Like, this is a curse. This is, you're cursing yourself, and the ancestors are very unhappy, and it can cause a lot of havoc, and it has a lot of consequences for those who are participating in that.
You know, people use the term now, I'm not disciplining my child because their ancestors return. And so, and I've heard this a lot. It's like, you know, when I was growing up in Oyotunji, an elder was always right. Even when they wrong. I said, no, that's wrong. You know, as a youth, they're gonna be like, no, the Bible was wrong. The elder was the elder was always right in your eyes. But amongst the other elders, they would check that elder where the youth don't even see that, or know that elder has been checked by other elders. If that other elder wrongfully whooped that child couldn't jump up and disrespect that elder. It was other elders put in place to check that elder. But that child didn't see that elder getting checked. Nowadays, another elder
Kids see everything.
Yeah. The other elder would check another elder about how they handling their child.
In front of the kids.
Back in the day, if an elder did that to another elder on how that elder checked his child, that elder would probably get knocked out or get a whooping just like that child.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you acting like that child.
Yeah.
You know, and today is just a different thing. Your children can cuss you out, and you got one parent that'll go for it or that will try and so-called clear it up. And then, you know, it's like, where is the discipline at? You know, young people don't get no whoopings no more. Young people don't hardly get, you remember back in the day, if you did something wrong, you didn't get your allowance. That don't even happen no more. It's just like these young people, they can go off and there's nothing to hold them accountable for their actions. And so therefore, these young people, when they grow up, they become adults. They're not responsible for their actions as an adult. Because they wasn't taught to be responsible for their actions when they were young.
Yeah. That's when it starts. You got to do that. No responsibility, no accountability, you know, traditional African concepts of family, you know, how we treat each other. That's one aspect of, even if you don't agree, or if you feel like somebody has wronged you, or if you feel in some type of way about whatever it is, like if, let's say, a child towards a parent. Mm-hmm. Today, the kids will cuss their parent out, go on social media, do a video, tag people.
Yeah.
You understand how disgraceful and how disrespectful and how shameful
to the family
and how embarrassing that is to the family, but more so to you, to yourself, to the ones that are doing it. You know, they don't understand what they're bringing on them, the negativity that they are invoking on themselves by doing that. There's ways to handle that. If you have a grievance with anybody in your family, there's a way to handle it and there's a way to not handle it. And we seem to have a lot of families and a lot of people seem to have lost that understanding. We just do whatever.
Yeah. There's no accountability. And you got these young people are getting older, and they don't know what responsibility look like. Responsibility for what comes out of your mouth, responsibility for your physical actions, responsibility for your emotional actions. You know, responsibility for allowing yourself to get so temperamental that you act out in a way and you cause problems. But you don't want to be responsible for that because you want to use your emotional imbalances to say, oh, I'm this way because. And so a lot of these, it's crazy because a lot of these young people, when they act out to that extreme, because they wasn't taught to be responsible, now they say you've been diagnosed with a certain sickness. But the problem is you didn't get your butt whooped.
Yeah.
If you would have got your butt whooped, it would have taught you right from wrong.
You got to establish it some type of way. Whatever your method of discipline is, you have to. Children need discipline. And, you know, now you see the children, issues with the children, but I think the thing that's more troubling to me is the adults.
Yes.
That are acting like children. Because if the adult is acting like this,
the
then
child is going to
the kid don't have no hope. Of course they're going to go. You got an adult that's co-signing
for a child.
Yeah, for the child, for their
wrongful
behavior. Yeah, and their disrespect towards the other parent. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that used to be unheard of. Like
Yeah,
traditional African culture, that is something that would be absolutely unheard of. The things that are happening in our communities today. Yeah. And some of these things are with so-called, traditional, IFA Orisha people.
Yes.
That are in the Orisha community.
Yeah.
So that's why we always say it's bigger than beads, pots, and titles. Y'all, people want to get these Orisha and dress African and all of that, but nobody wants to pick up the culture.
Yeah, they don't want to follow. There's parents out there now that allow their children to have freedom of speech. There's nothing. Okay, so what do that look like? Freedom of speech. Like, we're not saying that. Okay, so in this, the way I came up was, in order for you to have voice, you had to go through, like, for men, you had to go through Egbe Akinkanju. Mm-hmm. You had to go through all of the tests and challenges to say that, not that you a man, but to prove that you a young man now. And you can have some kind of voice. Mm-hmm. Right? Not to speak like you on the elder man's or the elder men's level, but to have some type of voice to speak for yourself to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's the thing, is like, in African culture, in order for you to have a voice, you have to be part of something. You have to have done something. You know what I mean? To show that you got some kind of wisdom. Now, young people, they can just speak out of just like, they'll overtalk an elder. Mm-hmm. Like today, a young person will overtalk an elder quick. Mm-hmm. When we was growing up, when you did that, you got popped. No, you got smacked down. You got rides or something for even doing that. That wasn't heard of.
Yeah.
But you have to, if you want voice, you have to be working towards inducting yourself into some type of Egbe.
Yeah.
Because if not, you don't have a voice.
The other side of it is, unfortunately, like, a lot of these elders do not act like elders, and the kids see that.
Yes.
And it doesn't make it okay. But in today's day and time, once the youth see, like, you kind of acting like we are, like, they feel like you on our level because of how you carry yourself. It's an open ball game. They say whatever, do whatever, because you put yourself in that situation, because you're not, and like we did the podcast before, age does not make you an elder. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of different dynamics to it. The concepts of respect and integrity within the family. Like, traditionally, like we said, a lot of these things that are going on now in the family would be absolutely unheard of in a traditional African setting. It's just certain things that, even like back in the day when I was growing up, and my mom and my grandmom and them, it's just like, my daddy told me with my great grandparents, my pops grew up on a farm in North Carolina, and my great grandma, he would tell me stories where they would be, we own our own land, we own our farm, and my great grandma, he said they would be at the table eating, and she would tell you one time, whatever, be quiet or whatever it was that she told you. Mm-hmm. And the second time, he was like, you was getting up off the ground, and that's how you knew, what I'm saying, your lip was busted or whatever, because they didn't have time to play like that back then.
Right.
It was real serious back then. You know what I'm saying? And respect was not an option back then. They didn't play at all. And I was kind of raised like that because my parents are older. So now when I'm around certain people and I see the kids acting a certain way, man, I can't help it. I just go into that mode. Like, y'all just gonna have to be mad at me or whatever. But let me help show you how you supposed to direct and what's the word I'm looking for? Not raise your kids, but how you supposed to teach them manners and respect. You know what I'm saying? And integrity, because I see it, some of these young couples and what the things that they let their kids do and say, it just make my blood boil. And they not my kids, but I can't help it. Like I gotta say something.
And we should be able to say something without, because obviously if you see that type of situation, obviously the parents just don't know.
A lot of times that's what it is.
Just don't, they
just don't know. They was raised and they don't know.
Exactly. And so you have to step in and say, not even get on the child, but pull the parent to the side and say, hey, you know.
I do both. I pull the kid to the side. I have a conversation later with the harder conversation is with the parents. Because you don't know how they're gonna react. Because you telling them something. Because you telling them something that they can benefit from, but some of them might be like, I ain't asked you that. Right? I'm good. Don't leave me and mine alone.
Who are you?
Right. But with me, you're going to have to say that to me.
Yeah.
Because I can't help it. Like I can't. Yeah. Literally, I can't.
Yeah. It's so how do we treat each other? I think what that question right there is, we have to go back to that concept of the hierarchy, and trickling on down to the youth, to the youngest group, you know what I'm saying? And the youngest group have to respect, it's a peer thing. And in African culture, you are treated according to your age. You know what I mean? And however, whatever your age is, you have to be able to respect those that have been through the stages of life that you haven't even got to yet.
Right.
It's a respect thing that trickles from the top, from the bottom on up to the top. The youngest have to respect the older, and then it goes up from there. That's in Edgy Ogbe says when the palm tree grows and the old palm fronds begin to get older, the new ones sprout. You know what I mean? And then it just keeps growing and growing like that. It's a generational thing. On how we should be treating each other, because respect. If we can get that respect thing down, is everything. If we can get back to that respect in our community, that right there, without money, will go a long way. It would be part of repairing the African mindset.
And the respect starts with respecting yourself. Then you go to respecting others.
Yeah, if we can get that, if we can, and I'm not saying everything is perfect, because everything hasn't been perfect.
It'll never be perfect. But
you got to have those concepts have to be in place, and there has to be systems created to enforce those things.
Yeah.
Because we have no more enforcement.
Yeah.
We have no more enforcement because people were scared to pop a child down because they scared their parent gonna come and say, "What the hell you hit my child for?" And they be ready to fight. The whole concept of it takes a village to raise a child now, that's gone out the door. That's gone.
No, it is.
And that's part of the decline of the African, not just in America, but all over the globe. This is happening.
Yeah. And for some people that might be watching this, it's a difference between discipline and abuse. So we're not advocating abuse. I know people always like to bring that up and say that. I understand. Right. Maybe some people feel like they were, some people, you have to know how far to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's a line, there's a limit, to how far.
It's the control.
And some kids are bad. Control. Some kids are just bad. Like, you might have got abused. Some kids might say they got abused because they was just bad as hell. But
you know what people do in the culture now? The people in the culture that they say their kid is bad. I need to get a reading. You better put some leather or some fire up on this. A little leather.
Whip that ass.
A little whoop man. Yeah. We're not saying abuse them now. We saying little popping. It starts when they're young, when you pop them on their hand.
When they're young. You got to get them you got to nip it in the bud early, and then later on, you won't have to do all that.
Shoot. Before my mother transitioned, I was in my 40s, mid-40s when my mother transitioned. I was still scared of my mother. For what?
Put that fear in you.
Yeah. Like, shit, I had the utmost, even if I disagreed with her or, we had a disagreement about something and I didn't like it, I sucked that up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't lash out on her and go, and do all of that and go off on her and cuss her out. I didn't do all of that because there was, from an early age, my mother established that. With myself and my sister. That was established.
Yeah.
Like, you can be mad at me all you want, but you better not.
You ain't going to say a certain thing. Yeah.
I dare you.
You could talk to me about it in a mature, rational, watch your tone, watch your facial expression, watch what you're saying. It ain't what you say, it's how you say it. So we can talk. You can, if you disagree with something or you feeling a certain way, we can sit down and talk about it. And see, that's everybody's problem, is that a lot of people don't have the emotional maturity to sit down and do that.
Listen, the young people today, and I love our young youth today because I see a lot of our young youth doing some amazing things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, I say this to the young people: learn communication skills. Start learning how to communicate and show respect to your parents, and then let that flow into the community. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Patience, emotional maturity.
Patience, because it's very, very important, because you don't know, an elder can do so much for you. But when you walk around with a mean look on your face all the time, your pants sagging, you got your hands in your crotch for the young men, and you got the young ladies walking around with an attitude all the time, with long hair, and they in their cell phone looking at themselves all the time, just wasting time. And then when the elder says something to you, you look at them funny. You don't know what that elder can teach you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they can teach you. You don't know what they have to offer to you. But elders, they don't want to deal with you when you got an attitude all the time. So I'm just saying that to our young people today. Learn how to communicate so that the elder know how to communicate and treat you back. That's important. It's so, so important. Everybody said, well, we want to be heard. This is the generation that want to be heard. But you don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
How you going to be heard and you don't know proper communication and how to communicate respectfully?
You're just spewing hatred and
because it's emotion
and anger out of your emotional charge. You're doing it the wrong way.
Emotion it's at an all-time high now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everybody is emotional, and they got social media as a platform to lash out. But you can't go and talk directly to your parent about how you feel. You can't go talk to the elder up the street about how you feel and what's going on with you, and let them drop some wisdom on you to help guide you through that issue.
You're too angry.
It's just, I'm going on social media. My mama did this to me, or my daddy is doing this to me. I'm going on social media to lash out. You embarrassing yourself and you pissing off your ancestors.
A lot of what we're talking about here too affects, it has generational effects, because I'm gonna look at it from a female standpoint and a male standpoint. You can look at a family. Everybody knows this family, whether it's your family or you or somebody you know, where, and this could be good or bad, where like a lot of the females in the family get passed on certain traits. If it's positive, where they may have, where the mother and the father were married and they stayed married and they were stable, they had a good life, and those type of things. A lot of times that's gonna be passed down to the daughters and the granddaughters and to their next generation based on the examples that they've seen and how the family interacts with each other. Now, on the negative end of that, you have moms that are and women that are very toxic. They're in and out of toxic relationships. They can't find any stability, no stable relationship. Money is unstable, job, career, whatever the case may be, emotionally unstable. And they pass this down a lot of times to their daughters because that's what the daughters see and that's what they hear and that's what they learn. So it's not all the time in every case, but the majority of the time and the majority of the cases, most of the women in that family are going to probably follow suit. And that's going to be passed down from generation to generation. Now, on the male side, we got, men in the family that never really got it together, Rolling Stone, never settled down, never married, never took care. Now you didn't really see them. They didn't come through and do much. They didn't really help raise you. They might have been in and out of jail. Maybe they had some type of, in and out of jail or some type of mental or emotional issues or whatever. A lot of time they get passed down to the children. Men. Like now, today, you can have 3 generations of men locked up with each other. You know that?
Yeah.
Granddad, dad,
I know.
And the son.
I'm
all
with
locked
people
up
like
in the
that
same
right now.
Penitentiary.
Listen, I have 3 generations of clients that I know that the granddaddy is locked up, the son is locked up, and the grandson is locked up.
Yeah,
it's like it's real.
It's real.
It's real deal.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say on that part where you was talking about the part with the women passing certain things on to the daughters and the fathers passing certain things on to their sons. So when you have a woman that, like you said, she's in a marriage, you got kids, you got daughters, but then whatever happened caused the relationship to separate, right? And so the man moves on, she moves on, but she has the daughters, right? So the parent who has the children become more of the influencer over the children, right? So now, if that woman doesn't find another husband to show her daughters, this is how it go. This is the family. This is a family structure. You got to have a balance, right? You got to have the feminine and you have to have the masculine so that the children can understand how that looks and how that works.
What does a healthy relationship look like? A lot of them don't even know.
So now, the woman, she goes in and out of relationships with men. Her daughters are seeing this, right? Eventually, the daughters are getting older and they seeing their mother go through all of this emotional traumas over men. in and out of relationships, in and out of relationship, in and out of relationship. So now what happens is finances is funny. Why? Because relationship ain't stable. There's no stability. When you have no stability in your home, your finances and everything else that surrounds that is not going to be stable, right? So listen to this now. Now, the woman is older now. Still don't have no husband. The young ladies are older. They're in their 20s. So now they didn't built this concept of how men are. Mm-hmm. Like most likely as men ain't nothing. Because they didn't see
negative connotation.
Right, because they didn't see their mama in and out of relationships with men. Arguing, fussing, you know what I mean? All of those things. And so the female child or children, they're seeing this. And so now they're hearing their mama say,
right,
he ain't in.
Right.
He tried to do this to me. He cheated on me. All of this is soaking in the minds of the young ladies. So that's why you have a lot of young women out here now who don't, and this is not just black women, this is women in all cultures that don't respect men because of what their mother was in their ear telling them because of what their mother went through, the emotional trauma or imbalance their mother went through with a man. Now they didn't pass that on to the daughter or the daughters. And so now the daughters, they don't even respect their father because of the words that come from the mouth of the mother.
It's the influence.
It's the influence. So now with men that have sons, when they see their daddy playing around with these women, having children from them, not taking care of them, putting their hands on a woman, cursing a woman out,
all that,
rejecting her. So he thinks that's the way that's supposed to go because he's seeing his daddy. A son's first hero is their father. Facts. They learn everything from their father. They think their father is a superhero. So now they're seeing their father doing all of this, and they think that's the way it goes. So now what do we have here? We have a generation of young people who is just basically, they out in the world with no stability or concept of building a family structure because look at what they've seen and experienced.
Yeah. These things have to be taught. And the youth, you know, they need guidance and they need to listen to the guidance of people that are older than them that have some type of wisdom that they can give them through their lived experience. And a lot of them, you know, they don't want to listen. You got to have patience. You know, everybody to get married and they take them vows and for better or worse, and all the friends are there. Everybody's like, yeah, we're going to be there for you. And da-da-da, you know, when the times get hard and everybody, ain't nobody paying attention to that. Everybody just caught up in the moment, the wedding, you know, all of that is new, is fresh. About that 3, 4 years, 5 years down the line.
It's testy.
And then that thing that situation come around that everybody was talking about.
Where's the vows at?
Now you ready to go.
Where's the vows?
You got to have patience. You got to work with your person. Unless it's something extreme where somebody putting their hands on you or like it's some, you know, drug use or it's something crazy. I mean, extreme, but I ain't even talking about that. I'm just talking about regular, like you getting on each other's nerves and like that's going to happen.
Yeah, you test each other.
There's no perfect relationship, and a lot of it is these movies and these songs, these R&B songs that we all came up listening to, but especially the women that have this romanticized idea about what a relationship and what a marriage and what life is supposed to be
like. Or what
a
man is supposed to be.
It's what a man is supposed to be. And when they don't get that, yeah, and when they don't get that, they don't know. Now they ready to give it up to do what? To go out here and get another man that's going to basically, you leaving a good man to go out here, you might get somebody worse. All this fairy tale stuff, it doesn't exist.
I know women who've been and had good husband, taking on the children that they came with, had a good husband, and, you know, down the line just left them and could not find a stable man.
Ever since.
You know, and so now you got their daughters having to see these things go on with their mom.
Yeah.
Because the mom made a wrong choice. So now they like, hey, mom wasn't able to find nothing stable. Bye-bye, or daddy was the only one that was stable. Now she done left bye-bye, left daddy, and can't find nobody else, another man that can put up with her stuff. And it's not just the women,
and it's vice versa.
It's the men too, because it's some men who have left or did some wrongful things
to some good women,
and now can't find a good wife.
And most of the time with us, with the men, it's immaturity.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. It's thinking the grass green on the other side, or you know, whatever. It's just
you're going for the look of the woman, or the body look, and like my wife don't look like her. I got to have that.
Yeah,
and that thing that you gotta have over there, my brother, that can be the worst attitude. You didn't invite it into your life, into your circle. But you looking at a man is looking at her body, looking at the shape, looking at her face, how cute she is. Not looking at, is she wise? Is she intellectual? Do she have any wisdom? Like, none of that.
Is she loyal?
You
know what I'm saying?
Is she able to take care of herself?
Yeah. That's the biggest flex. Can you take care of yourself?
Am I about to get a woman that is going to be a leech? Because looks are deceiving.
Yeah, and the same with men. A lot of these men, you know, they lay up with these women. It's their house, and it's they like, you know what I'm saying? You have to be able to have your own, you know, because there's a lot of men out here that just, you know, they just use women for whatever they can use them for. And so the family dynamic and the family structure needs
morals,
repair,
integrity. Where's the integrity?
Yeah, it needs repair.
Where's the honesty and the principles and the morals? You know, we need to get that back, because it's all good, you know, to dress up in African clothes and take photos and stuff and look and smile and look like you got it going on, but after that event is over,
you ain't no more cameras. Treat your brother and sister like a piece of trash.
Yeah, ain't no more cameras and nobody for you to hug up on and smile with.
To the mic,
and you get back home. That's where it's real. You get back home and dang, I don't have a husband here. Dang, I don't have no wife here. All I got is my Orisha pots. You know what I mean? But I don't have a person here to help me, a physical person to help. And we got to get our family structure back together. There's nothing wrong with marriage at all. There's nothing wrong with trying to work through your marriage. This is where the parents have to come in. When there's problems start happening in the family, you know, you don't fuss and argue it out in front of the children.
Nah. That's bad. IFA speaks about that. That's just something that you just don't do.
You don't do that. The adults have to have a place to go to, you know, talk about those things. Conflict of resolution. How can we work through this?
You know, I got to touch on one more thing before we go. I've heard this I've seen it in a few places and heard it from a few people. And let me just make this statement for the record. Either male or female. For men, I know the men in my circle, and a lot of, I would say most men that I deal with, that's in my circle, honorable, reputable men with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
When we see one of our brothers effing up, you know, we pull them to the side and we check them. We ask them about it and we check them on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that a lot of women have this attitude where no matter what, girl, I'm riding with you. If you said it, then whatever, I'm riding with you. And that's not cool. Because you're saying that because you're a woman and I'm a woman, that you can wild out and you can do whatever you want to do. And then and we're not going to hold you accountable or responsible for your actions. I don't see how that's helpful. I don't see how that's a good thing at all, because male or female, we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, when a woman acts out a character, whether it's to her husband,
whatever,
or it's to even another sister,
mm-hmm.
you know, other women are supposed to check them immediately.
Mm-hmm.
When, like you said, when the brothers act out a character, the brothers swarm in on the brother.
And it could be elders or it could be your peers. It doesn't matter. Right is right and wrong is wrong. If we see effing up, we gonna let you know.
The brothers swarm in on the brothers and be like, and there ain't no swarming like we're gonna beat you up. It's like, yo, bro, we want to know what's going on.
Yeah, you good?
Let us know what's going on,
right?
And what caused you to act out of character to put your hands on your wife,
right?
What's going on?
And we're expected to check it. And in today's society, if something like that happens and the women call on the men to go check that situation, let us not go check it.
Oh, yeah, we in trouble.
What?
We getting pulled up on fines.
We gotta go check it.
You know, yeah, we
ain't
men.
Cowards. We ain't what is y'all? What kind of men are y'all?
You know?
But let a situation go down with a female, and then one of the men asked the women to go check the woman.
Shit, I've been in that position myself.
Don't really get too many good results on that. And we're not talking about everybody, but for the people we talking about, you know who you are.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, we keep it real on Let's Talk IFA. We're not up here for likes and we up here to tell the truth.
Listen, I've been through that personally.
Yeah.
Where a ex-wife of mine did some stuff to me. I properly and respectfully went to the women about it, and it hasn't been checked till this day.
At least try to check it.
It hasn't been checked.
You got to at least give it a try. Even if you think you can't get through to the person, at least you have to register on file that we tried.
We tried to do this and it didn't work out, but we tried to do it.
Right.
Because the ancestral mothers are saying, okay, they tried.
So now
it's documented. So now it's on us now.
Now it's on us.
But if the women alive don't check that woman in the physical, it's not documented. The ancestral mothers are going to do what? They're going to jump on you for not checking that.
Yeah, that's our duty as men and women. When we see, a sister or a brother that's doing something wrong, that need a little correction or guidance or advice or whatever, it is our ancestral duty to do that. Yeah, you can't just say, I can't just say, like if I know somebody that's beating his wife up, I can't be like, yeah, that's a brother and I'm gonna ride with him without I can't do that.
We gotta get that brother to the side and say, what's the problem? Why did you put your hand on your wife? Why did you put your hand on that woman?
Or whatever the situation is. Yeah.
The reason why I keep using that analogy because it's a lot of time with the men, that's part of one of the extremes. It's
that's an
he
extreme.
Didn't put his hand
that's an extreme.
on this lady. And so now as men, we expected to go check them. And truthfully enough, we are expected to go check him.
Yeah.
Now, if he get out of hand, then we have to control the situation by any means necessary to control that man's actions or to hold him down and to put him in check.
Yeah.
But our job is to figure out what's going on. What caused you to trigger to do that? Let's start there first.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't give us a logical answer, well, bro, you're in the wrong. You know.
Yeah, because traditionally the men would, if it comes to that point, they would have to converge on the brother and, get right. You might have to get his ass whipped.
Yeah.
And tell them don't do that no more. The next time it's gonna be more severe. We're not tolerating that. You know what I'm saying? That's how family community is supposed to be. But when the men need to be able to check the men, and the women need to be able to check the women. When people need to be checked. Period.
That's important. That's so important. Even like you said, even if you can't get through, if the sister can't get through with the sister, and the sister's like, "Girl, leave me alone. It's documented.
You gotta try.
We went over to such and such EI's house, and we talked to her about why she did this to her husband. Because if the husband don't go upside her head, and he comes to the women and say, "I'm putting this into your hands because y'all talk to your sister.
I'm trying not to go upside somebody's head. Help me, help y'all." Yeah. But anyway, so, that's just another dynamic of, just the African traditional concept of what family is supposed to be. It's never going to be perfect. So I don't want anybody to take this message the wrong way because that does not exist. But we're supposed to be able to communicate, and there's certain lines that you just don't cross as children to your parents, as parents to other parents, as children and parents to elders, as elders to children and grandparents, as a community. It's certain lines that we're not supposed to cross, and there's certain ways that we're supposed to handle ourselves and carry ourselves to basically have a functional family unit as opposed to a dysfunctional and a toxic family unit. We see it all the time, brother and sister throwing juju on each other and just all type of...
That's a whole nother podcast there, brother.
All type of wahala.
That's a whole nother podcast on that. But, we can sit here, me and the Baba can sit here if we wanted to, we can get intellectual about this whole topic we're talking about. But, I think the way that we both presented ourselves on this particular podcast is because we both been through some things, some of these things. So it gets to be emotional, and you want to bring it out in the way where it's real, because this is real.
No, it's real.
It's real deal, because we're each year I'm seeing the African family structure declining because of lack of principles, lack of respect, integrity in the family structure. I'm seeing these young Black men and women, out in the streets, they dying, they getting shot. It's a system set up for them. So when you not respectful at home and you want to come out here and say, I want to voice my opinion out here because I can't do it at home, they got something set up for you out here. Either you gonna go buy a gun and act up, or you gonna go to jail for something you wasn't supposed to do. Look. It's a system set up for y'all young people. If you want to leave home and think that you're grown and you want to go out in the world and act like you grown and you don't have the tools or the necessary backing or knowledge, it's something set up for you out here. And it's a little room with walls, one little tiny window with bars, and then in front of you is bigger bars, and then you got a little toilet over there next to your bed that when that's jail. That's jail.
And then domestic violence is at an all-time high. And I'm going to end it on this note. You talk about a breakdown in the family structure. Just here recently in Charlotte, you had 2 cases where, you know, the man shot the ex, the mother of their children. Yes. And one of them shot the kid too. I think the kid wasn't his. Maybe it was a stepchild or something by a child by another man or whatever. But like, how did we get here? How did we get to that point where you so mad at somebody over your child's mother that you pull out a gun and you shoot them and kill them?
You got emotional men out here that's been raised in emotional situations, and the emotion has been passed down to them. I tell a lot of women who are pregnant, hey, when you're pregnant, you need to go somewhere where you're going to have some comfort, because if you're in a situation while you're pregnant and you're always getting temperamental and emotional, you passing that on to that child in your belly. And when that child comes out, that child may have some issues.
Yeah. So
get your children away from emotional situations.
and this is another reason that we have to have our rites of passage, because a lot of it is education. Our young men and young women are not being shown at home, and nobody's teaching them what a successful family, a marriage, a relationship is supposed to look like, because they're not getting it. They don't see it at home. So how are they supposed to know? The only other thing they got to compare it with is what they see at home and TV. That's the only thing they can really, you don't have shows no more like The Cosby Show and A Different World. It's a wrap. It's over for that. Everything is straight ignorance. Reality TV and it's just
you got debauchery. Now, you might have a man and a woman. I'm just, this is my last thing I'm going to say, but you might have a man and a woman married. And in today's society, you might have, the woman might be like, can I bring another woman into the family? Meaning she want her husband and she want to have a woman to herself. Right? But then she got kids. Right? How does that look? You raising your children in a family where you got a man who you got your husband, but then you looking at this other woman who looks like a man, because most of the time it's a man, because one got to act like a man. Oh, yeah. And one got to, you got these situations today.
Yeah.
And the kids are confused. They're confused. You got where you have a woman who has a relationship with a man. She brings a man to her house. She got kids. She got daughters or sons. She bring the man to her house. But then tomorrow she's bringing a woman that she's sleeping with too in the house. And the young children are seeing this.
And we ain't even going to go confusion here, but not only are they seeing it, but, a lot of times people now don't even really cognizant of who they're bringing in their house and leaving around their children.
That part.
So there is a lot of things that we got to clean up, and especially in our community.
Control, man. It gets down to control.
With the kids, because now the kids traumatized because you got this dude you've been dating for 3 months around your kids, and you leaving them there now, and now he touching the kids and doing so. Now the kids traumatized for the rest of their life.
You got women doing that too. You got it goes both ways.
It go both ways. So
you got older women touching on these little boys.
On the boys. It just go back to with rites of passage. We just have to teach and educate so that our youth understand these things. So as they grow up, they can help. It's never gonna be perfect, but they will be able to. They'll be able to navigate a lot better with the road. They'll have a map.
They know what looks right and what looks wrong.
Yeah,
they know what looks right and what looks wrong.
On that note, we just wanted to touch base today and discuss, what a traditional African family structure is supposed to look like. It's never perfect. But it's just certain things you don't do.
You got rules and laws.
There's rules and laws with the family. Boundaries. You got to have respect. You got to have respect for yourself. You got to have integrity. You got to have patience you got to have like, just
don't cuss your parents out because you cussing yourself.
Yeah.
Let's remember that.
And don't cuss your kids out.
Don't cuss your kids.
You can talk to them without cussing them out.
Exactly.
Don't cuss the elders out. Elders need to act like elders and not act like they 16. It's a lot of different dynamics within our family structure that we have to go back to our home base. And that's the problem. We've gotten off base. We don't know our culture anymore. So we don't know how is the family supposed to function and operate? What are we supposed to do and not do as family? So that's something that we have to take a deeper dive into and get back to. And we can do that through rites of passage. We can do it through workshops, retreats, classes, different things like that. So just want to say Ekushé to all of our beautiful people out there that are tuning in with us. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. I am Awo Ifa Jamini Ray.
I am Awo Ifa Tegunshe.
And you were tuned in to
the best,
the greatest
podcast
on the planet Earth.
Let's Talk IFA. Ashe.
Odabo. Odabo for now.
Odigbawo.
Peace and blessings.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.